Facebook just got up and running. And now, hello, YouTube. Hey, everyone. Welcome to week 3 of our series, What Time Is It? So, I'm excited that you're here tonight. We're going to wait just a minute. It is 7:29. It is 7:29. And, yeah, we will go through the Bible study here real quick. But just waiting for people to tune in. So, people to hop on here. So, and I'm going to try to pull it up so I can see chat for you all. So, getting everything set up here. Got that and that. Great. So, hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. So, we've got one on Facebook. So, hello. If you're on here, if you would throw a little comment on the side, say hi, say hello, say where you're viewing from. I am out here on the deck. So, in the backyard of our house, sitting out here, enjoying this beautiful night. I mean, today was so perfect. Just terrific. So, yeah. So, if you're on, please throw a comment over in the chat. Love to see you. Hi, Tammy. Good to see you. Thanks for throwing in the chat. So I'll get started. How this will work is basically we were going to do week 3 of our series, What Time Is It? This Sunday, May 31st. But it is our first day opening back up live at the church. And so we decided that we wanted to start a brand new series. Hi, Michelle. We wanted to start a brand new series this Sunday. So I'll be beginning this Sunday, May 31st, a series called Better Than Ever. And I think it's just so timely for where we're at right now, what we're going through. As well as we'll have all of our kids in the service. If any of you are coming and bringing kids, they'll be in there. And I thought the signs of the end times might be just a little bit heavy a topic for the first time kids are in the sanctuary with us. So I'm basically, I had most of my message written already for this coming Sunday. So I'm just going to lead through it like a Bible study. So I'll just kind of walk through. If you want to take notes, read the scriptures, we can do that and walk through. So, in this series, we've been talking about what time is it, trying to answer that question, what time is it in regard to the end times? And so in week 1, we talked about just how should Christians view the end times, that it shouldn't scare us, but comfort us. It shouldn't distract us, but motivate us and that sort of thing. And in there, we talked about how Jesus was very clear that no one is going to know the day or the hour, that we're not going to know what time the end times take place. That he says no one will know the day or the hour that the Son of Man, Jesus himself, doesn't know. The angels don't know. Only the Father knows when he's actually coming back. So we do not know what time Jesus is going to come back. And anyone who says that they know the time Jesus is coming back, don't. We will not know the time that Jesus is coming back. But the whole premise for this last message is that we won't know the time that Jesus comes back, but we will know the season by its signs. And I get that from Luke 21, that we won't know the day or the hour, but we will know the season by its signs. Because in Luke 21, starting in verse 25, it says this: "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. People will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world. For the heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time, they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near." So right here in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 21, it says that there will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, on the earth and the nations. And what we're going to talk about tonight is that actually Jesus gave a lot of signs for the season of his coming, that there's going to be a lot of signs. We won't know the exact time, the day, the hour, the month, the year, but we will know the season by its signs. And then I love how it ends that passage. It says, stand up and lift up your heads. That as we as Christians start to see these things, we shouldn't be afraid. We shouldn't be terrified. We should actually lift up our heads, meaning we should be hopeful. We should be optimistic when we begin seeing these signs, because that means, like we read and learned about last Sunday, is that the end is coming near and Jesus is coming back for us Christians. He's coming back for us, and that's something that we look forward to, that we're not fearful of. And so I want to talk tonight about what signs do we have? What does Scripture say are the signs that will take place at the coming of the Son of Man? And so first we're going to be in Matthew 24 and go through a big passage of this and just read through what Jesus said was going to be the setting, the signs that are going to set up his second coming. So in Matthew chapter 24, starting in verse 1, it says, Jesus left the temple and was walking away with his disciple when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. Do you see all these things? He asked. Truly, I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen? What will be the sign of your coming at the end of the age? So Jesus is saying, hey, not a stone of this temple is going to be left standing. And then the disciples are like, okay, well, when is this? When is this happening? And in Matthew 24, verse 4, Jesus begins to describe. Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you. And I love that that's his first thing, is more than what we should even be looking for. He says, hey, make sure no one deceives you. Make sure nobody is trying to tell you that they're going to know the day or the time. Make sure nobody else is trying to contradict what I'm about to tell you in regards to the signs that are about to come. Jesus says, hey, make sure you're full of sound doctrine, of people that are quoting the Bible when they're talking about the end times, okay? And that's the only reason why I say that you should listen to me right now, okay? The only time we should listen to someone who's talking about the end times is when they're talking directly from the Bible. You know, when they're quoting Scripture and it aligns with God's word, when it aligns with, you know, so if somebody says, I know it's going to happen on 2022, February 22nd, you know, like, okay, that's not scriptural. We're not going to know the day or the time, but we will know the sign. So Jesus says, first, don't let anyone deceive you, claiming I am the Messiah, and they will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. So that's our first sign for the end of the coming of the end times, for Jesus coming back. He says, first, there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. And so what does that look like? Well, it looks like what we have now, okay? We have wars happening all the time, and we have rumors of wars. I watched a great message from James River Church, and the pastor was talking about how throughout history, wars have been increasing more and more and more and more and more and more in frequency throughout human history. So we are in a season of wars and rumors of wars now. And then it says, in verse 6, Matthew 24, verse 6, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation. We see that now. And kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes. We have famines. We have earthquakes in various places. Verse 8, all these are the beginning of birth pains. So this is just the start of it. So I'm not saying the end times are happening. Jesus isn't coming back right now, but it's the signs, things that are going to lead up like birth pains to his second coming. So Matthew 24, verse 9, then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death. So there's going to be persecution of Christians. Right now, there are 1,000 Christians that are martyred, are persecuted, killed for their faith every day. 1,000 Christians every day. So there's going to be persecution. And then it says you will be hated by all nations because of me. So eventually we're going to get to a point where all nations are going to hate Christians. It says that that's what's going to happen. And then in verse 10, at that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, so things are going to get worse and worse, the love of most will grow cold. But listen to this, Matthew 24, verse 13, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And then it says, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. So right here, it described kind of the setting of the stage for the end times. And so the question is, well, are we living in the times right before the end times? Like, does it seem like it's close for Jesus to come back? Well, first, I just want to say, just about every Christian generation in history has thought that their generation was the generation that Jesus was going to come back. Okay, so I do not know if our generation is going to be the generation that comes back, but it does say that there are some things that are going to happen that set the stage. It says that all nations are going to hate Christians. I don't think we're quite there yet, but that will take place. And then in that last verse, I want to just point out a few things that I think that need to be in place for the end time to come. I think there are some things that make our generation a very unique generation in terms of Jesus' second coming. I think there are some things that have just happened that have never happened in the past that make it more possible that he could come soon. I'm not saying he's coming soon, but I'm just saying there are some very unique things about our generation. And I got these three things from Pastor Chris Hodges at Church of the Highlands. I thought he articulated it so well, but they're really kind of interesting. And that is the first one that we just read in verse 13 or verse 14. And the gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. So that means that all nations need to hear the gospel before Jesus is going to come back. And that word there for nations is ethnos, or people groups. So that isn't just like a nation, like every country is going to, but every people group, meaning like every language, every ethnic group, of which there are about 17,000 on the planet right now. And of those 17,000, 10,000 have a Bible or a church or a missionary. Okay, so about 10,000 of 17,000. But something I just want to point out is that now with the internet, we are able to get the gospel into all sorts of places that we never were before. I mean, as churches have now all gone online, now it's going to be very interesting, because now we don't necessarily need a missionary in every country. Now people in countries that have never heard the gospel before could potentially have access to the gospel through missionaries over the internet, through spreading the gospel over the internet, from learning another language that the gospel is already translated into and hearing it. So it's just kind of an interesting thing. The next passage I want to look at for why our generation is a little bit unique is Revelation 11, starting in verse 7. It says, now when they have finished their testimony, and that's talking about the two witnesses. So in the book of Revelation, it says that there are going to be the two witnesses that rise up, and they are testifying about Jesus. And so it says they just finished their testimony. A lot of scholars believe that that's Moses and Elijah, that they are going to come back and they're going to testify about Jesus. But that's just what some scholars think, kind of popular opinion. And it says the beast that comes up from the abyss will attack them and overpower and kill them. Their bodies will lie in the public square in the great city, which is figuratively called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified. For 3.5 days, some from every people, tribe, language, and nation will gaze on their bodies and refuse them burial. So it says when these two witnesses are going to be killed, that some people from every people, tribe, language, and nation, in verse 9, are going to gaze on their bodies. And so, up until very recently, that wasn't even a possibility. I mean, how could people from every nation see them in the square? But now we have this worldwide satellite technology. I mean, right now through the internet, we can literally see things happening live on the other side of the world. And so I would think that this is the first time in human history that could actually take place with worldwide satellite technology, that we could literally have people from every nation, language, and people group seeing something at the same time. And I think that's new in a new thing in history. I mean, that there's never been a time that we had that opportunity like we have right now. So with worldwide evangelism and being able to spread the gospel, I think we're getting really close to that point that we can have the gospel to every tribe, every ethnos, every people group. I think it's the first time in history that we have the ability to see the two witnesses being martyred wherever they are in the world. That it's the first time we could all view that. And the third thing I want to point out that's just kind of unique generation is from Revelation 13, starting in verse 11. It says, "Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had two horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven and heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all people, listen to this, it also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name." And so what it's saying is that these beasts are going to rise up and they're going to demand that everyone worship them. And then when people do, when they agree to worship them, they're going to receive the mark of the beast on their right wrist or their forehead. Okay, and we don't know what the mark of the beast is. Later it says it's the number of man, or the man's number. And in Christian literature, all numbers have meaning. You know, like 3 means like God, like deity, because of the Trinity. 6 is the number of man. 4 is the number of the earth. 7 is the number of completion, because God completed creation on the 7th day. Or I might have mixed 3 and 7, but all numbers hold meaning. And so 6 being the number of man, it's basically this glorification of man. And then it says that you're not going to be able to buy or sell anywhere on the earth without the mark of the beast. And so we live in a new day and age where a worldwide financial system is now becoming possible. It says that one day we are going to be demanded to worship the beast. And if we don't do that, we're not going to receive the mark of the beast, and we're not going to be able to buy and sell. So that worldwide financial system is the third thing that kind of makes us unique, makes our generation a little bit different, because it's possible that that could begin happening. Okay, so all this to say, I'm not saying the end is coming, okay, but I am saying that things are beginning to be set for the end times. Now, Jesus could come back in a day, or he could come back in 1,000 years. I have no idea. But really what all of the end times teaching in the Bible, all the passages we've gone through in this series, the passages we read tonight, the whole book of Revelation, really the whole point, the summary of all of apocalyptic literature in the Bible is this, is that we won't know the day or the hour, but we need to be ready. We need to be ready. We need to be prepared for when the end comes, because one day it's going to come, and we need to be ready for it. And the only way we're ready for the end times is by having faith in Jesus. He's the only thing that is our hope when the world ends, because when this world ends, the only thing that lasts is where we spend eternity. And the only way to spend eternity in heaven with God is through faith in Jesus. And so all this to say, through, these kind of things that are unique about our generation, the worldwide evangelism that is capable now, the worldwide satellite technology that's capable now, the worldwide financial system that's capable now, all that is just setting the stage for the day that Jesus comes back. He's going to come back someday, and we as Christians need to be ready. I've seen a lot of things right now about the mark of the beast and that sort of thing. And the one thing I just want to clarify about it is that the mark of the beast isn't going to be something that you're just like tricked into, or it's just like accidental. The mark of the beast will be an intentional thing that we get in denying of Christ and worshiping the beast. That's what it is. It goes through and it talks about how he's going to force people to worship him, and then they get the mark of the beast. Now, am I getting anything on my wrist and forehead? No, I'm not in any regard. But the most important thing is who we worship, who we follow, who we allow to be the Lord of our lives, who we allow to instruct us. And the only thing that lasts is that being Jesus, is letting him be the only thing that we look to. And so I just want to reiterate that verse that we talked about right at the beginning, Matthew 24, and starting in verse 12, it said, because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. But this is my challenge to all of us. But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. I think the whole book of Revelation can be summed up in that sentence, that we need to withstand. We need to hold strong to the faith. We need to cling to Jesus, because he is the only thing that allows us to have hope, who allows us to have life after death, who allows us to really let nothing scare us, because when we have Jesus, we have all we could need. And so this was just a real quick version of week 3 of What Time Is It? If you have any questions, feel free to post them in chat. I can go back on there and look at them, and I might not know all the answers, but I can go and research and show you what I find. But yeah, the ultimate thing is that, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And so, Christians, let's hold strong. Let's be hopeful. Let's not be downcast or terrified. Let's just look ahead. Created a beautiful sunset for us and a beautiful night. And so thank you for being here. Yeah, I'll see you this Sunday as we start our brand new message series, mn.com. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.